Hello and welcome to Pizza Tower, a score-focused platformer that was released in early 2023 and had a very successful launch. It was received super positively, which I was kind of aware of, but I wouldn't be fully convinced to try the game for myself until I saw it being played at a high level. After multiple playthroughs of Pizza Tower, I can confirm that it's worthy of all the praise it's received. It's fun to play and rewarding to master. If you wish to learn more, then this video will be a quick playthrough of just one of the many levels in Pizza Tower. Along the way I'll be talking over my gameplay, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be inclined to try out the game for yourself. The very first thing you'll notice, besides how unique the game looks, is that Peppino here is acrobatic and fast. This sort of speed may seem daunting at first, but thankfully the controls for Peppino have been fine-tuned so well that it's not as bad as it seems. The controls are extremely responsive, and Peppino's moveset flows really well into itself. Of course, at first it'll take some time to get used to, but just know that the skill ceiling is quite high. This level is called Oregano Desert, which sounds like it might play out like a typical platformer desert stage, but just like every other level in Pizza Tower, it has many little unique elements to enjoy. In this case, there are Pixamarts, crumbling rock blocks, these slime cheese looking enemies that spawn thunderclouds, and much more. Speaking of enemies, after Peppino reaches a certain speed, they will begin to fear for their life, which is not only funny to see, but it also does well in informing the player that the enemy is now susceptible to being run over. Most of the time, you'll want to be going fast, so the enemies being easy to deal with is a good thing, especially since it makes getting the highest possible rank, the P rank, more about keeping up the momentum and less about slowing down to take out enemies. In order to P rank a level, one requirement is that all 3 secret eye locations must be found. They aren't necessary to beat the game, and some are definitely easier to find than others, but I like their inclusion anyway, because a good chunk of secret eye rooms have unique layouts that aren't typically found within the level itself. Those unique layouts require a slight shift in focus, so they also help keep you on your toes, but most of them should pose no problem. Upon entering this cave, Peppino gets fed a spicy chicken wing and is transformed. There's a transformation in almost every level, which, besides being a visual treat, also acts as a way to switch up the gameplay. In this case, Peppino can't punch or enter Mach speed anymore, but he's given an air dash and much better air control. These transformation sequences typically don't last very long, but they last just long enough so that it doesn't feel like Peppino is constantly dashing all over the place all the time in every level. While I go through another cave here, I'll talk about Pizza Tower's development. It began way back in 2018, and many of the levels that exist today weren't even a concept back then. It was a very experimental period. One level that was there from the start though was Oregano Desert, which made its first public appearance in a video released in December 2018. Then, soon after that, the first publicly available version of Oregano Desert was released. Like I said, very experimental. The next version would end up playing a little more like what I'm playing right now, though things like the Pixamarts, the Fire Breath transformation, and an area that will appear soon, they all still did not exist early on. Their inclusions make the level more interesting and feel dynamic though, so I'm glad things ended up this way. The amount of effort put into something doesn't exactly correlate to its quality, but in this case, Pizza Tower made many good choices along the way to its final release. Level design, movement, presentation, everything received lots of polish, and it's felt when playing from minute 1. The only thing that didn't change that much, if at all, is Oregano Desert's level theme, but I think that was the right call. With 2 out of 3 secrets found, achieving a P rank seems more within reach. Crucially, the P does not stand for perfect, as I just displayed by falling down. I only had to quickly collect some little pizza toppings to reset the combo timer, which can't be dropped if I want that P rank. Pizza Tower would be a little too frustrating if it were so strict, but instead it offers the right balance where it's not super easy to P rank a level, but it's also not so hard that it's discouraging to try. And now I've entered this UFO, which is that area that I mentioned earlier that wasn't in the early versions of Oregano Desert. It makes an already bizarre place even more strange, but it's a fun idea. The UFO is not a long section, but it's a good showcase of how the placements of pizza toppings and enemies help guide the player to avoid obstacles. Collectibles and enemies aren't just randomly placed everywhere. They are placed in such a way that first-time players will feel like they're moving instinctively, and those attempting to master a level can make it second nature. Now begins pizza time, where the objective is to return to the entrance of the level before time runs out. That doesn't immediately sound like it would be fun, but pizza time sequences often still have new places to go through, so it's not an exact one-to-one retracing of steps. For example, this pizza mark here and the next few areas are only accessible during pizza time. Another requirement of the P rank is to find the janitor and his closet. Thankfully, the small pizza toppings along the cliffside wall reminded me about his hidden closet up here. These cows scattered throughout the level remind me that Peppino is rocking the same black and white look that Wario had in Wario Land 3. That's not too surprising since Pizza Tower takes a lot of ideas from the Wario Land games, such as the transformations, the focus on destructible blocks, and the escape sequence, and it molds those ideas to fit better with Peppino's abilities to go insane speeds. The last Wario Land game released in 2008, so to many people, myself included, the concepts found in Wario Land that were molded and put into Pizza Tower were all brand new. The lead designer, McPig, used Wario Land as a basis while working on game design, and the end result was a game like no other. It makes me wonder how many old games are out there with mechanics that could be brought into the modern day with a new twist. I've been through here before, but going down plays a bit differently from going up, so it's almost like a new perspective. Enemies are respawned to keep things fresh as well, so since I'm currently running at max speed, I can focus my attention on just two things, going fast and going faster. Before I get my P rank, I also need to complete the second lap. First, let me introduce this guy, The Noise. He's unlocked after beating the game, and he's actually the reason I ended up playing for as much as I did. Compared to Peppino, it feels like he has less overall top speed, but he makes up for it with much better overall control. The Noise doesn't run like a madman, instead he rides on his skateboard and could kick up walls. He can also drill downwards while on his skateboard, and follows that up with a bounce that gives plenty of airtime. The Noise has other unique moves, but the key here is that I think he's much easier to manage, and thus it becomes easier to reach that flow state where every action seems to go hand in hand with the level design. Once you've had a taste of that flow state, P ranking a level also starts to seem more and more feasible. P ranking a level also starts to become more and more appealing once you've heard the Noise's escape theme. I never P-ranked a single level as Peppino during my first playthrough, but as a Noise, I was able to get my first ever P-rank, and soon after that, I knew I had to P-rank them all. Hopefully with this video, you will feel inclined to try out Pizza Tower for yourself. Enjoy your first playthrough and all the surprises along the way, then, once you unlock the Noise, consider P-ranking the first level. I'm sure you'll see how going for that high score is some of the most fun you can have in this game.
Did you know?